It's real breakfast hours. Eat breakfast to view up.
Today's breakfast is...
we actually woke up a little late today, so I kind of had lunch for breakfast. And that was leftover Irish stew made with beef, potatoes, onions, and carrots.
And celery. And I actually had some leftover shepherd's pie from we went out last night, but I forgot to take a picture, so I'll tell you what we had for dinner. I had basically a pulled chicken barbecue sandwich and some corn.
It's pretty good.
Welcome back.
I believe we're on episode 8.
Number finally. 8. You know, soon we'll be in the double digits, which is
I won't
crazy.
be able to do that one with my hands.
Exactly. I mean, we already can't do it with one hand. Then we're not going to be able to use our hands at all.
We're going to have to do it together.
We're going to have to pull out some
toes. I'm
going
to have to be like this. I'm going to have to be like this. You're going to have to throw up like one or two or however many. But yeah, welcome. It's actually nighttime again on this one, which is not intentional this time around. We had some technical difficulties this morning when we were setting up to record.
Yeah, I guess we can go into that in a little bit, but...
Oh, I might as well just talk about it now.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we'd want to do the shout-outs first, but I can. Okay, so basically I film with a Sony ZV-1. It's a very classic, like, 2010s YouTube vlog camera. In fact, I think this is exactly the camera that the big YouTube vloggers were using back then, probably like the 2015, 2016 time. So when I got it in 2021, it was a very big deal for me. I had an internship that I got like 2 big paychecks that were like probably a little over 1,000 each, like maybe 1,500 each or something like that. Or maybe it was less than that. It was probably less. But anyways, with my first paycheck I got, or maybe it was my second one of them, I used it to buy this camera because I really like doing YouTube and making videos, and I wanted to continue to do that, and I wanted to increase my quality of videos. So
Oh, Mr. Catman. You want to say
show the man. This is for my dad.
Yes. Come on.
Oh,
there you go.
Ron, do you have anything to say to the people? Turn him to the microphone. I almost said microwave.
Say hello, Rob.
Intriguing.
He's not very talkative today.
He does do tricks though, so.
Not without treats. Oh God.
Oh, perfect. So, anyways, I've had this camera. Of course, I didn't extend the warranty because I'm dumb. So that I don't have. But this morning, when I went to do it, I was taking out the old battery because I was going to see if it needed to be charged at all. And when I did that, the way the camera is there's a little like blue latch for the battery. So like there's the big latch to the battery compartment where also to the SD card compartment. They're in together and you can lock it. And that one's fine. It's part of the bottom of the camera. Once you open that, there's another little latch that goes over the battery. When you put it in, it locks it in so it doesn't move around. And then you can move it to the side and the battery will pop right out. When I pulled it out this morning and went to take out the battery, the little latch like completely just came off and it was loose. And then when I tried to put it back in, like it wasn't... Why are you still whining, bro? Yes. His heartbeat is going really fast. When I did that, it wouldn't go back in. There's a little spring underneath where the latch is, and I assume something happened with that it kind of stopped. Maybe it got out of place. I don't know how it happened because I literally haven't touched my camera basically since we filmed and I edited the last video. So, I don't know. Other people in some forums that I looked up, because I was trying to see if I could just fix it myself, because it seems like it should be something simple to fix. But apparently it's not. And other people were saying it's happened with their Sony cameras. People, complaining about things being built to break nowadays. And I was very distraught because this camera is pretty expensive. I think it was like $700 when I got it. And I don't have a ton of money, and I have even less money now because I don't have a job because I'm in medical school, so I live off student loans. So I was really nervous about that. it would still turn on and everything, but I was worried that maybe the battery would somehow get lodged out of place because it's not being held in by that little latch. I didn't know how that would affect it. So we went to a few places to see if they could fix it, and none of the places that we went to 2 places, none of them said that they could. They were kind of just said you'd have to send it off to Sony, but I really didn't like the idea of that. And when I looked on their website on my phone and I looked for like an estimate for camera repairs, it said it was going to be like $400. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because it's a little latch, and it didn't even give me a chance to put in like what the problem was. So estimating $400 when it doesn't even know what kind of repair I need seemed really crazy to me. Just in general, I didn't want to do that. And then there was a camera repair store a little further away, and I had Mike call for me because I'm really bad at calling on the phone, and I was kind of a wreck anyways. And he kind of eventually got back to us and was like, well, what did he say?
Well, I talked to him on the phone for a couple of minutes, and he had me explain what the problem was. And basically, it turns out that the little device, it's literally a spring and like a little slot that the spring sits on top of. It's 3 pieces in total, and they're all like bite-sized. They're very small. He's basically said that it's not worth him attempting to repair it, and the only thing that we could do is try to send it to Sony, but he described it as a high-risk repair because it's not really convenient to get at, and they're such small pieces that you risk damaging the camera by trying to replace them. And then he asked, well, everything works, right? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, thank you for your input, Ra. He basically recommended that if it doesn't close, just tape it closed, because it's better to just do that than to risk breaking it by trying to get it repaired. Yeah. And I was like, well, it does close, so I won't even need to do that. He's like, yeah, it's just not worth it. Just deal with it.
Yeah, so it turned out okay. That's why we're filming now. I did post on Instagram that it would be delayed, and it might still be delayed depending on how long it takes me to edit this tonight, since we are filming later. But hopefully not as delayed as I had feared, because obviously we're not sending it out. I don't want to deal with that, especially if we don't have to. The one thing I was worried about was if it wasn't locked in, like maybe the battery would heat up or do like more damage, but apparently it doesn't sound like that's the case. That should be good.
Yeah, the guy had even recommended that you could just tape it in place if you needed to, and I was like, if taping it works, then I'm sure it's fine the way it is, and it seems to be working fine right now.
Yeah, so that's why we're late to film. Now I guess we can go into the shout outs.
Yes, so I will go first. I've got 2 submissions from Jugs, but we're only going to use one of them. One per person, all right? He had Samoan ramen, which I can put up on the screen. It's Spam, eggs, noodles.
Looks really yummy.
Yeah, he's a big old Samoan guy, so makes sense.
It is funny to me how popular Spam is in Hawaii, but also like in like Asian cultures in general, because I think a lot of people in America kind of see it as gross. I mean, it's canned ham, so it is kind of weird, but to me it's funny that other people find it gross and that it's so big in those like cultures, because like for my family, we didn't use it for the way they do, but we did use it in like pasta salad all the time, like macaroni salad. It's got Spam in it.
I don't know if I've ever even eaten Spam. Maybe once or twice, but it's not something
So do you not have like ham in your pasta salad?
No.
That's crazy. So yeah, so I guess like for me, I don't know, maybe it's just like the poor like French Canadian thing. Like I don't know, but I grew up eating Spam, so.
My mom would occasionally make Spam as like a breakfast meat. Like you take it out of the thing and you fry it up with your eggs. And then my boy Gren submitted, it's actually not his breakfast, it's our mutual friend Austin. Austin's breakfast was oatmeal and bacon, and in the background there you can see some Fireball from the St. Patrick's Day festivities, which we'll get to.
Sounds so fun. And then my sorority sister, my G-Big, Ray, shout out. I know you're going to watch this, so there you go. She submitted her breakfast. This looks so good. I think Ray, I'm so sorry if I get this wrong. It's an English muffin, and there's some kind of sausage on it, and it looks like an egg, maybe.
There's sausage patties, yeah.
Yeah, but that looks like an egg on top of it, right?
Yep.
So I assume egg, sausage, and then it looks like a hash brown, right?
Yeah.
Like on those oval potato ovals.
Those are my favorite kind of hash browns.
Those are so good. And
how come you never buy them?
They don't have them at the store. I looked. My parents had to go to. I don't think Hannaford sells them. My parents had to go to Shaw's near our home, their home. They had to go to a completely other store than they usually go to, and then they found them there. So I don't know what's up with that. Hannaford, get your stuff together.
Maybe Walmart has them, but it's not
Walmart
like we shop at Walmart.
probably does, but
really.
and I mean Market Basket might even. I should try there sometime, but I don't know. It looks like a delicious breakfast sandwich. I wish I was having it. In fact, all of these look pretty yummy.
Well, we'll have a more normal breakfast tomorrow. We bought some English muffins, and we have plenty of eggs and bacon, so tomorrow I can make you a sandwich like that.
No hash browns, though.
No hash browns, though.
So thank you, everyone. Also, extra shout out to Ray for sending me a picture of her enjoying our last episode of Real Breakfast Hours. She had some wings with us in solidarity.
Yes.
Actually,
my grandmother did the same thing.
Yeah, we had a lot of feedback from you guys on that one, or at least a lot of people reach out and tell us that it either made them want wings, or they did have wings with it, or after it. So I think your grandma, Ray, sent me a picture, and Cade, one of my classmates, he said that it made him really crave wings after watching it. So thanks, guys.
Sponsor us for Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings, yeah. We'll do it again.
We're bringing you business, so bring us some business.
So it's been a great week. Also, I just wanted to so when we were out and we were looking to see if we could get this fixed potentially, or what was up with it, we went to Crumble Cookie and Starbucks, which, I love a good Starbucks drink. Not the coffee ones, but the fun ones. Like, I get a pink drink, and he got a mango dragon fruit lemonade, which was very pretty.
Tasted good. I don't really care for Starbucks, but the Crumble that we went to had a line out the door. Yeah. And there was a Starbucks literally connected to it. So I said, might as well just go get some Starbucks while we wait, I suppose.
It was a nice time.
Yes.
It was good. We sat down, we had a little drink, we talked a little bit. But there's the Crumble Cookie bag. I've never had Crumble Cookie before, so I was excited because on my TikTok, so recently my TikTok has been showing me the little ads for Crumble Cookies. I think it's because one time I clicked on it, and now every time it shows me it.
Now it's got you.
You click on the ads on TikTok once, and it will continue to show you that, because the same thing happened with the Lumi. I got one for Lumi deodorant, which I use. It's actually really great. It lasts pretty long, and you literally don't smell anything. So that's really good. And it's more of like an all-natural, healthy deodorant, or it's supposed to be. I don't know. I just like that it is very easy to use, and then you don't smell like anything. They had like this weird ad on TikTok that was like, $30, and you get a whole box of like full-size products, and it's multiple to try. And I was like, dang, that's kind of good. And so I thought about doing that, but I haven't yet because I don't need more deodorant right now. But I was very intrigued. And so since I clicked on that, it like keeps showing me that ad. So if you click on an ad on TikTok, it will not stop showing it to you. But I liked a lot of the flavors they had this week, so I just wanted to show you guys some of them. You already ate yours. What did you get?
I got one that was a fudge cookie with a little bit of mint on the top. It was cold. Some of them are warm, like I believe the chocolate chip cookie was warm. Mm-hmm. The one that I got was not warm, it was fine. It's served that way on purpose, and it was very good.
Yeah, and so I guess like some of them you should heat up afterwards, but this one I haven't finished it. They're pretty large for cookies.
They're like this big. Pretty big.
So I'll just pick it up. It was warm.
Bigger than my coffee cup.
It's like a Oreo cookie one, which
half eaten.
Yes, it is half eaten. It's cookies and cream flavored. I love cookies and cream. It's like my favorite. Like if I'm gonna get a milkshake, I want a cookies and cream because I don't really like chocolate milkshakes. I like vanilla, but it's more spicy to get a cookies and cream one. So that was this one, which was very yummy. It's the only one I've actually tried. I don't really like mint flavored stuff. It reminds me of toothpaste too much, so I didn't get that. Just like a classic chocolate chip. So nothing really special about that one, but I figured, I love chocolate chip cookies. Normally, they're my favorite cookie.
If you're gonna get a cookie, you might as well get some chocolate chip.
Yeah, they're my favorite kind. And oh, this one actually looks kind of sad. They didn't put as much as I thought they would. It is like a Lucky Charms one, which is kind of fun. There's only a few Lucky Charms on the top. I thought there'd be more, but I think that's gonna be exciting. I got this one for us to split. I guess we could split all of them, but the cookies and cream one was more for me.
Yes.
And yeah, so they're very exciting. I'm excited to try them. His sister really loves them.
Yeah, she wouldn't shut up about crumble for about 2 months.
So I figured there's one in Westbrook. We gotta go.
And go we did.
Also, another shout out. I got this cup for $2 at Goodwill. It says Friends
Your
Are...
lipstick is already on
I know, my lipstick's on it. It says Friends Are Forever, and it's covered in pansies, and my sorority in college was Tri Delta, and our alumni symbol is the pansy. So I saw this, and I was like... Because it was right after I went to Ray's, my sorority sister's PowerPoint party. It was the day after. And everyone was saying that they got so many cool things at Goodwill that I was like, I'm going to Goodwill. And I found this.
You gotta go to Goodwill. That's where all the heat is.
Dude, literally the heat is at Goodwill. Not always, but like every so often, you'll find the coolest little plates. Like she was saying that they got 2 leaf-shaped plates at Goodwill. And like, how cottagecore is that? I love it. I love it. So, if you want, like, sometimes really good finds, like if you just go to Goodwill, you won't always find something, but sometimes you will. So.
Great. It was about 4 ads in a row. Not a single one of them was sponsored. What a shame.
What a shame. One day.
Okay, so let's see. We each have a couple of notes here. Some notes are probably more extensive than others.
Yeah.
I think we each have maybe four points. I'm going to go out of order. The first one I want to bring up is St. Patrick's Day. It was St. Patrick's Day yesterday.
It was.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I love that holiday. Not for any particular reason other than I like to drink. And I like Irish music.
And Irish food.
And Irish food. It's some of my favorite foods. So yeah,
Guinness.
And Guinness, yeah, that's Irish food, silly. And part of drinking.
That's a drink, not a food. Although I guess it almost is.
You eat it, you consume it.
You eat.
Drinking.
You drink
it. Oh my
it.
god, you're ingesting it.
I'm just saying, food and drinks is kind of separate in my mind.
Yeah, but like if I went out to eat, you assume that I'm also going to be drinking.
But they don't. But what if you weren't getting Guinness? You don't know. I'm just doing.
You gotta have Guinness on St. Patrick's
Day. That's what I'm saying. You didn't even mention it, so.
I was gonna get there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you take over.
I'm some small variety of Irish and Scottish, so I like pretend that I'm a part of it.
Gotta get you on that 23andMe.
I worry about my 23andMe. It's gonna be all over the place. Also, your 23andMe is 99.4% European.
Yeah.
Very nice. How very ethnic.
The Japanese went up.
Yeah, she's 0.3% Japanese and 0.2% Indigenous American. As far as I'm concerned, that means that one of her, because for those who don't know, the Native Americans, they have a common ancestry with East Asians. So because it's believed anyway, that the East Asian people would have crossed from the land bridge in Northern Asia into Canada and North America.
Yeah.
So basically, and she's French Canadian. So basically, I think that one of her Canadian ancestors had kids with a Native American who would have had Japanese ancestry, and that's where that little less than 1% comes from. Yeah. Whereas mine,
it must have been someone who was like, because I mean, the French Canadian ancestry, you can't go that far back, right? Mm-hmm. So for it to be that small of a percent, I feel like there's probably the person who had the Native American ancestry wasn't fully Native American.
Well, right, because it would have been somebody who is French, went to Canada,
yeah, and
had children with a French Canadian, somebody who was also of European descent, and like multiple generations back Native, who would have generations back been Japanese.
Yeah, but anyways, and the DNA ancestry stuff is like not super accurate. Some of it I think is fairly good because, I mean, it is true. It says I'm like 76.7% French, and pretty much all my ancestry goes back to France. And from there, I mean, I don't know. It literally just goes back to France, and then I don't know what happens, but I assume it's more French stuff. So, like, it's, like, kind of accurate. It's not perfect, and it's not a complete, like, science, but there's stuff there, but it could definitely be a mistake.
Yeah, it's
definitely a big chance that it's not really Japanese ancestry.
When you're under 1% like that, it gets kind of dubious.
Yeah.
But for stuff like 99.4% European, look at her. Have you seen her?
Yeah.
She looks like somebody of European descent, does she not?
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Which is funny because my senior year of college, undergraduate, I was roommates with multiple exchange students, or like international students that came for a semester. And the first semester it was 2 Russian girls, and one of them, the first night she got there, she looked at me and she goes, "You don't look American." And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know what that means, but cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I look more stereotypically American than you do because I'm more things than you are.
Yeah, so like comment down below what you think I look like.
I'm gonna put white.
French.
White, French, European. Yeah. Somebody's gonna be Japanese, obviously.
Japanese.
My ancestry is a lot more complicated than that. My mom is black, Italian, and Scottish. Like some small percent Scottish. Because her mother is like 75% Italian and a quarter Scottish or something. And then her father is like black with some small percent Cherokee Indian or something. Or no, it's Nipmuc, I think. They're like Connecticut tribe. And then my father is predominantly Scottish and Polish. Also with some tiny amount of Sioux Indian in there. So it's a mess.
Yeah.
But my last name is Scottish.
They added a thing for ADHD.
On what, 23andMe?
Yeah, on the health reports.
Oh boy.
Like they have health things. There's like, they always add new ones, but usually these ones you need to. Typical likelihood of having ADHD.
So not at some high risk of it?
No.
Incredible.
It would be interesting to see that for you, because you do have it. I wonder if it would actually be high.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe they're like, did you know that there's a crazy high percent of people with ADHD in Scotland or something? And I'm like, I did not know that. But
because they, obviously, it's DNA stuff, so they can analyze different, like they have it for certain types of Alzheimer's and like genetic disorders where like certain breast cancers have certain genes that are, if you have a mutant copy of it, you're more likely to develop the cancer, for example. So they can track that because they have your DNA sequence. And they have health reports and the ancestry reports. I got both because I thought that would be cool. So it can tell you like, oh, you have this variant, or you don't have any of the variants we tested for, or like you're more likely to have gallstones, like based on other people who we analyzed, that kind of stuff. So I think it's really cool. Obviously there's a whole like, oh my god, you're giving your genetic information to people. But I'm like, I don't know. I just think it's really neat.
I just think they're neat.
yes, and when the machines come, they'll sequence you.
They can sequence me all they like.
In Ben 10, there's a gun that they use in Omniverse, like in one of the later seasons, that attacks your genetic code directly.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, if they ever develop one of those, anybody with a 23andMe is screwed. Because they'll know. Anyway, St. Patrick's Day. We wanted to go get some Irish food, get a Guinness, and I wanted to, hear some music. When we finally decided where we were going, it ended up being a place in the city that was playing music. They had food. It was a pub. There was a couple of different places. One of them, the first place that came up when I Googled Irish places near me, because I didn't want to go someplace that just had beer. I wanted to go somewhere that had food and music, so not just any old pub. the first place that comes up is like, oh, music, food, atmosphere. But I was looking at the pictures, and it was, for lack of a better description, way too well lit. If you've ever been to an Irish pub, it's kind of dark in there. And I like it that way. It's very ambient, very ambient. And this was not that. There were big old windows. The floor plan was pretty open. It did not look like a place that you would see in Ireland, where I have been. I have been to Irish pubs in Ireland. This was not one of those. So I didn't want to go. There was a place across town that was perfect. We got there at 7 o'clock. There was a line out the door with a bouncer, and it was standing room only on the inside. And I overheard one of them, the bouncers, say that they're not even serving food in there at this point. And I was like, oh, okay. We aren't going here. So we got back in the car and went to another place at another town, one or two towns over. And the food there was good. We both got shepherd's pie. I love shepherd's pie, one of my favorite foods on the planet. I had a couple of beers. There was some guy singing like John Mayer in Johnny Cash.
Yeah, he was singing like country music, not John Mayer.
When we looked up the restaurant we were now going to, it was allegedly Irish themed. They had Irish menu items. It was St. Patrick's Day. We got the name, it was like Dunn, which is an Irish name. So I'm like, oh, perfect. We get in there. Half of the building is Mexican food themed, and there's like tacos and stuff on the walls. I'm like, where are we? But then they have shamrocks on the walls too, and all the waitresses are wearing green. And
I'm pretty sure, because there was like one small section of the restaurant, and then there was the other half. I think that maybe it used to be that little bar, and then next to it was a Mexican restaurant, and I think maybe they just bought out the Mexican restaurant and like tore a wall down or something, and so they had the whole bigger space, because they also had another bar there, you know, which would be kind of weird to have two bars normally, I feel like, for a smaller restaurant. So I think that's why there was, I think it's probably a new thing, and they haven't had a chance to redecorate it.
It probably was a pub that is now trying to become a restaurant and has purchased a second bar beside it. And that second bar happened to be Mexican themed. But it's okay. We got our Irish food. I got my Irish beer, and we listened to Irish music in the car. So it was fine. It was still a good time. So yeah, enjoyable, I would say.
Yeah. A little news update for you all.
Oh boy.
This is like really short, but there is a little more information about the Hailey Bieber Selena Gomez drama, because there's always something.
Crollo's gonna love this.
I know. It's short though. It's short. Basically, Selena Gomez posted a picture.
I think we should hire somebody for 2 hours a week to refill my coffee cup. They'll just lurk over in the corner there, right out of view of the camera. And they'll refill the cup, and we'll pay them $50 for their trouble.
Oh, here we go. Look at this. Okay. So, you see this post by Hailey Bieber. It's an IG post.
Who is that?
This is Hailey. This one or this?
The grainy.
Yes, this is Hailey Bieber. It's a young picture of Hailey Bieber. She posts this on her story. She says, hugging this little girl extra tight. Okay, you would think that's normal. It's like an Instagram story post. Except for when you realize that like a day or two before she posted this, Selena Gomez posted a picture of her young self, not on her story, but like a full Instagram post, saying, it was like, yeah, look at this. Dear younger me, please don't be afraid to ask for help. So, another thing of Hailey Bieber copying Selena Gomez.
What a weird post to make anyway. Dear younger me, ask for help. What are you going to go back in time and tell yourself to ask for help? Through your Instagram posts?
People always like talk about like, what would you say to your younger self? What advice would you give? It's like one of those things. Anyways, like, it's just a nice little picture of her. Probably because she's dealing with all this drama. And then Hailey Bieber posts another picture and she says, oh, I wish I could hug this little girl extra tight. I'm like, girl, stop.
Young Selena Gomez almost looks like a young version of Savannah.
She's really cute. Anyways, so that was just an interesting thing I noticed. Also,
I'm curious.
we are learning about steroids in like corticosteroids, cortisol, that sort of stuff right now in my medical school classes, some pharmacology, and this is stuff that like, because obviously she's on these medications, Selena Gomez is on these medications because she has lupus, which is an autoimmune disorder, and steroids blunt the immune response. People talk about her gaining weight because that's one of the side effects is the water weight gain, because it has, okay, I don't want to get into the whole thing because it's a lot, but basically cortisol in your body, that's like the fight or flight stuff, it's a glucocorticoid. Another similar thing is a mineral corticoid, which is like aldosterone, which is part of your kidney system of making sure you have enough fluid in your body so you don't get dehydrated, which was way more of an issue back when we didn't have super good resources. Now it contributes to hypertension in people because like we have enough salt, we have enough water. It is actually a part of a mechanism for like the chronic hypertension stuff. Anyways, because they're very similar, if you give synthetic glucocorticoids like synthetic cortisol, it can also act on those mineralocorticoid receptors, which is why you get the weight gain and the water weight and all that stuff. And it's in specific areas usually, like the face and like the back, your upper back, which they call those things. They call it a moon face and buffalo hump, and like that seems very mean.
Well, I guess it makes sense because a buffalo and a camel, they have those humps to store excess
but it's
water.
Like so mean to call it that. I'm like, dang, this person has to be on these medications, and now it feels like you're making fun of them. It's like, huh, you have a moon face and you have a buffalo hump. So I saw people saying she has a moon face because of those medications, and I was like, and we talked about it in my lecture too. I'm like, maybe medical community we could just say something else.
L plus ratio plus moon face plus buffalo hump plus you fell off.
Yeah, like what?
Do you want more coffee?
Yeah, I feel like this was kind of cold from the start.
Probably because you poured some of your own stuff from the fridge that was cold. It was like freshly brewed.
Well, I wanted some creamer in it.
There you go. That should be nice and hot.
So that was my...
I'm spilling it. There you go.
I will. That was my fun fact. What do you got next?
Next thing, I've got a couple of reasonably short things. The first one at the top of the list is Sports Corner again.
You can't do that. That's going to pick up on the microphone so bad. Sorry.
Trigger warning. About 10 seconds ago, you probably should have taken your headphones out. The football season's been over for a while, but I've been watching hockey now. I've never really cared much for hockey in the past, except for college hockey while we were still in undergrad.
Yep.
But I've been watching the Bruins this year, and it just so happens that the Bruins are very, very good this year. As of last weekend, so 7 days ago, I believe, it could have been 6 or 8, I don't know. The Bruins have become the fastest team in NHL history to win 50 games in a single season, solidifying themselves as a super team, sort of like how in 2007 the Patriots were 16-0 in the regular season, which people were also calling them a super team. In other sports like basketball, for example, the NBA, they're very well known for forming super teams, which it's kind of a silly term. Like there's not really a set in stone definition for what a super team is, and the biggest thing about that is that teams like the 2007 Patriots, who were literally undefeated, lost in the Super Bowl. They won every single game all year and then lost in the final game of the year. And when I was watching the hockey game, they were playing commercials. It was literally, they had 49 wins. Mm-hmm. The game starts, and they're playing these commercials, these bumps for the Bruins. They're showing the Celtics. They're showing the Red Sox from years past. They're showing the 2007 Patriots. And one thing that all these alleged super teams had in common was they lost in the finals. So now with the Bruins having been the first team to ever win 50 games this fast, they're now in that same exact boat that the 2007 Patriots were in. So it's not the finals yet or anything like that. I think we have maybe 1 or 2 more weeks in the regular season before playoffs begin, which is funny because the Bruins are the only team right now that has clinched a playoff spot. Everybody else is still in contention for it, hilariously. Or unsurprisingly, I suppose, because they have so many wins. that it's going to be really interesting and worthwhile to follow if you're just like a general sports fan. You should tune into the Bruins because who knows how the playoffs are going to shake out.
Very interesting.
Hopefully they're not going to trip at the finish line like the Patriots those years ago. That hurt my little heart.
That's
back then.
Yeah. I don't know.
I believe they lost to the Giants as well. 2-2-2.
2-2-2.
All my homies hate the
I
Giants.
think you said Jets earlier.
No, I said Giants both times.
Oh, okay. I'm just deaf.
The worst part about that is that I grew up in Connecticut. I saw a meme a long time ago that said Connecticut is annoying and funny because since Connecticut has no teams of its own, you can pick and choose your favorite sports teams from the surrounding areas. Quote, we're the only place where you'll find a Yankees Patriots fan. Yeah. Because I grew up in Connecticut, I just want to pick the teams that are good. I've always just been a fan of the New England teams. So I don't really watch a ton of basketball, but when I do, I support the Celtics. I watch the Bruins, the Red Sox, the Patriots. So I'm pretty consistent even when they're not good. But we drove by somebody today that had a Bruins sticker and I believe a Celtics sticker. But then they also had a Yankees sticker and a Giants sticker. And I was like, ugh.
And then a Steelers.
Yeah, and then on the back of their car, they had a Steelers sticker. And I was like, what? At least for the other two, I understand that you're probably from the eastern New York, like it's almost New England area. So you have a couple of New York teams and a couple of New England teams. But then you get the Steelers out of nowhere. Like they're from Pennsylvania. Not even like, what? Pittsburgh? What? I don't know. It kind of blew my mind. And you have multiple football team stickers.
You can't lose if you got multiple.
If I was a fan of every NFL team, I would have a 100% win rate.
So true. Is that your... Yeah.
That concludes the sports corner.
Okay. More girl talk, except for political girl talk. Girls rise up. Anyways.
Don't girl boss too hard.
We're about to girl boss too close to the sun. No, just kidding. This is a news update about Florida. And if there's something about Florida, it's not gonna be good. Because right now, Florida is acting like 1984 or something. I don't know. Every time I hear a new law being formed out of Florida or something, it is a nightmare. If you've heard anything about Florida recently, they've been banning books left and right. They took all the books out of kids' schools, and then they were like, okay, we're going to make a list of the ones that you can have state-run, we are picking them. We don't have formal education in childhood development or education, but we are going to be the ones who decide what books they can read. Anyways, I'm not a fan of it if you couldn't tell, but whatever. But I saw this really interesting thing. To be fair, I saw this on Tumblr, but there was sources and stuff, and it is true. American Girl historical books have been banned in Florida schools. And the funny thing about the books so if you don't know anything about American Girl dolls, I understand.
You gotta say the line.
I think I know more about American Girl dolls than you do, genius. I probably do. For most of you. Not if Ray's watching this. But for the guys, yes. Anyways, there's historical books, there's historical characters. They all are, not all of them. They have different ones.
Isn't there an Annie Oakley American Girl or something?
I don't think so. Annie Oakley.
Do you not know who that is?
No.
She was the only woman in the West.
Oh, Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. I don't know, maybe. Anyways, there's different ones. There's one from the 70s. I think her name's Julie. There's all sorts of old ones. Samantha, Felicity. There's some Native American ones. There's some black ones who were slaves or were growing up in Jim Crow laws type stuff. All these they all have different experiences. The historical girl ones, they're all from different time periods. And basically, they have banned banned all of the American Girl historical series except for the ones with Felicity and Molly. And if you know anything about that, it is basically that those are the two that really don't have anything to do with like xenophobia or like there's no like people of color, like because even the ones that are on white protagonists, a lot of them, because they're old, they focus on times when like people were racist against Irish people and like Italians weren't considered white, that sort of stuff. So it's still like racism.
Yeah.
So, like, those are all banned. You can't talk about, like, gay people, none of the stuff that's, like, any race stuff, because, oh, critical race theory, bad, even though it's not even talking about that stuff, it's just literally talking about struggles that people faced. So all of those are banned, except for the two that focus solely on white patriotic girls. And there's no, like, race stuff in it. So I don't think Florida could be any more obvious in that they are so hateful and so backwards, and they don't want you to learn about that like other races exist, or that like
other
racism
races like Italian people.
Yeah, like racism was never a thing, slavery was never a thing, gay people don't exist, they're bad, they're awful, we're gonna kill them. I don't know.
You're ugly, you're disgusting, I'm gonna kill you, give me $200.
So I'm so sorry if you live in Florida.
Have you ever watch The Sopranos? I know the answer is no, but I feel like I should ask.
Yeah, the answer is no.
There's definitely no. I don't know. It's been such a long time since I've seen any of The Sopranos, but there was a meme circulating last Columbus Day. And if you know anything about the recent controversy about Columbus Day and all that, people have opinions about Christopher Columbus. Let's just put it that way. But there was a picture of Tony Soprano yelling, "In this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story." And then people were posting other things where it was because obviously he's Italian, he's like a mobster, and everybody in his family is Italian. And they were standing outside some restaurant that I think had been renovated, so it wasn't Italian food anymore.
Oh boy.
And they were talking about how it was like anti-Italian propaganda or something.
Oh, by the way, this little, so it's from American Girl Doll News. I don't know. Anyways.
Why would the girls lie?
Why would the girls lie? No, but like people on like Twitter and TikTok have been talking about this. And like teachers in Florida. But I also saw this. So some of the books that aren't like more race related are about like polio and like vaccine stuff. So those are also banned because you can't talk about vaccines. So yeah, literally 1984. I don't know. Not to throw out like the whole fascism thing,
that's
but
right. You can't.
If you're banning books, I think you might be there.
You can't have a polio or be Italian in Florida.
Can't even be Italian anymore. What the heck? Literally 1984.
Okay. What else do I have? Oh, some guy is suing Buffalo Wild Wings because he said that their boneless wings are just nuggets. What? Duh. Like, what were you expecting them to be?
Yeah, like what? How do you think they were gonna be boneless?
Let me get it. Boneless.
Let me get a boneless pizza with a 2-liter of Coke.
Like what is a boneless wing if not a chicken nugget?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to make a boneless wing that wasn't a chicken nugget,
it would just be like shreds of chicken with sauce on them. That would not. You wouldn't even be able to.
And like it's not a wing anymore.
Yeah.
So I would be.
So what do you think?
I assume this court case will get thrown out because it's ridiculous. But if it isn't thrown out, I would love to hear this guy's case. What does he classify as the difference between a true boneless wing in his mind?
Yeah.
And a chicken nugget.
I also don't even think Buffalo Wild Wings were even the one who coined the term boneless wing. Like lots of places, restaurants have boneless wings, and like grocery stores even sell boneless wings. So why are you only suing Buffalo Wild Wings unless they really are the ones who like coined the term? But also like you must have had these before, because I think his claim is that they're like false advertising basically, because it's not a wing. But like, so then everywhere is false advertising. Like, are you gonna sue everyone, or what's going on here?
Right. And when you get a buffalo wing, which if you're a regular fan, you'll know we just had several. It's literally just a wing or a drumstick of the bird covered in sauce, right? And it's cooked, obviously. So if you were to literally remove the bone from it, you would have this ugly shredded piece of meat in front of you. Obviously, they're not going to serve you that, so they close it up and put more sauce on it. Oh no!
They bread it.
Oh no! You've made a nugget. Maybe he means that. So I would assume a true nugget would be more of a...
Well, yeah, it's like the ground meat and
right,
stuff.
like ground beef is put through like a shredder, basically, and then they congeal it again. I imagine that's what you do with a real chicken nugget. But what is the difference? Is he mad that they don't all come from the same bird or something? Like if you eat a boneless wing, oh no, this was shredded at one point. Who cares? Tastes the same.
Yeah, it just seems like a silly thing. Although, I guess, we'll just have to keep an eye out because it's hard to say. I think this is just a guy being ridiculous, but also a lot of people, and this is what McDonald's designed to happen. You remember people make fun of that case of that lady who had the coffee, and now it has to say, beware, content's hot, or whatever on things. People, roasted that lady for this, but she actually had, third-degree burns. It was actually a serious thing, and McDonald's ran, a smear campaign, and that's why people think it's funny. But no, that was actually a genuine instance of a company doing something. Sorry, the camera died, but anyways, yeah, it's an instance of a corporation doing something bad. Someone gets hurt, and they have to, pay out for it, and they get in trouble, but then they, sweep it under the rug kind of thing, or, make that person sound crazy.
Right. The key difference here being, though, that you get handed a coffee cup and it doesn't say caution hot. Now, common sense dictates it's coffee. It's going to be hot. But this is hot coffee. When I grab the cup here, I don't immediately burn myself, right? Have you ever grabbed the Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup without the little protector? You can burn yourself. That's what happened to this woman. I even believe she spilt it on herself or something.
It spilled and it was really burning.
It was scalding hot, right? Yeah. So this woman was actually injured and she had a real case. I have no clue what happened, what could possibly have happened to this man who is suing them for it to result in it being a nugget and not a wing, have caused him similar harm to third-degree burns. Right? What you compare the cases because the company makes it sound ridiculous, which is true. But at least this woman actually did have a case, Yeah. Because it's not just hot, it was dangerously hot.
Yep.
And yeah, she has the case pulled up on her computer here. There had been more than 700 previous reports of injury from the coffee, including other people with third-degree burns who had been paid settlement in the past. So, a very real case.
She had to get skin grafts on her inner thighs and elsewhere because she spilled it on her lap in the car when she was trying to put the cream and sugar in. So it was genuinely a big thing.
You got some pretty important body parts down there. Something bad could have happened.
And it did. I mean, if you have to get skin grafts, that's not... And just having serious burns, which third degree is the most serious, that is a really grueling healing process. And something that even when you get the skin grafts and stuff, it's never really the same. And it's something that you'll see and you'll be reminded of, and it's very painful and emotionally traumatizing and all that sort of stuff. So it was not a small thing McDonald's would want you to believe.
Right. Another cool thing about this case was this was the first time that I'd ever heard about the jury being able to give partial blame to somebody, because the woman had wanted McDonald's to shoulder all of the blame, but the jury actually found her as being partially responsible for it because it is common sense to assume coffee is hot, and she did spill it on herself. So, she is partially to blame. However, McDonald's had no warning on the coffee that it would be quite so hot. And, it, I think coffee's supposed to be 104 degrees or something like that for it to be perfect. Mm-hmm. If you're getting third-degree burns from it, it is way more than 104 degrees. So, like it is their fault mostly, but her mishandling of it made it a bigger issue. So it's like I don't want to say unique because I'm sure it happened before, but it is certainly of note that the jury can give her like partial blame. I'd never heard of that happening before.
Yeah. So I don't think this case is like that, especially because there hasn't been like a verdict yet.
Unless he got 3rd-degree burns in the inside of his mouth because he was expecting a wing, but it was a nugget.
Yeah, like it's. I think it's just like a guy being silly, or like either trying to just get money for nothing, or maybe like trying to get clout. I don't know, but.
Worst case scenario, he gets a little bit of a payout, and they have to list with a little asterisk on their boneless wings. These are technically nuggets.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care. You know, they taste fine.
Kind of stupid, anyways.
Definitely silly. What else you got?
Oh, so another note: the United States might be banning TikTok.
Huge dub.
Not really, because TikTok is a Chinese company. TikTok is very popular in the West. There are pros and cons to it. For example, a lot of people get their news from TikTok, which can be good and bad. Some sources, like some of the accounts are like verified and like they're like, you know, MSNBC. They have a TikTok channel, they post stuff. Or like the Under the Desk News, she's verified. She just kind of tells you what's been going on in the United States. It's not like an official thing, but I don't really think, like, she has sources kind of thing, like it's based off of headlines, so it's not really false information. But of course some people could be spreading false information that way. It happens on Facebook too and other places. So like, is it great that people are getting their news from there? Not necessarily, but it is kind of nice, especially when it's more like it's a very good way for individuals to get the word out on things. Like, the more an average person can say, hey, this like big company effed me over, or the government is doing this thing to my small town that would normally not get out to people, but on these platforms, an individual person can go viral and like more people can be aware of it. Mm-hmm. So it has its uses and it is a very popular platform. Also, like, it's kind of funny because if you think about it in like a free speech way, then is like getting rid of that like impacting that? I don't know, because it is just like an app, so I guess you could say it's also not Chinese, so I don't know if you could apply free speech to it. What they want is to have like Microsoft buy the company or whatever to have it not be banned. Bill Gates, you want?
No, I don't trust Bill Gates.
Yeah, exactly. I don't trust him either. So isn't that kind of weird that the United States government is saying that, oh, we won't ban it if you let this big corporation in the West buy it out?
It's because the Chinese, everything that is developed by China, everything that comes out of China, like Tencent, their primary gaming company, and whoever owns TikTok, they're all affiliated and owned either entirely or partially by the Chinese Communist Party. So it's not just, I have an app that happens to be made by a Chinese developer. It's no, I have a app made by the Chinese Communist Party on my phone that every kid under 20 in America has. So, and it's not like a far stretch to assume that could be some sort of security issue. Think of all the things that get posted on there. And a great example, this isn't TikTok related, but it is like gaming and internet related. If any of you have ever heard of the game War Thunder, religiously, more than once a year, War Thunder gets... it's a game where you play as tanks and airplanes and you fight, right? Like somebody might be America, somebody might be Germany, and you fight with airplanes and tanks. Every single year, sometimes more than once a year, somebody leaks actual classified military documents to win a War Thunder argument. Somebody would say, the American F-16 can't fly at 300 miles an hour. And somebody would say, yes it can, and here's a classified military document that proves it. And then it's a whole national security issue because people were arguing over a game. So imagine, and that's just a small niche community, or maybe not small and niche, but a lot of you have never heard of it, I'm sure. But then you take something as massive as TikTok that, as I said, a massive percent of the country has on their phone that they're constantly using all day, and people are posting any manner of things, and it's owned by the Chinese Communist Party and some variety. you can see how that could be a security concern.
Yeah, and I mean, I do get it. I think the guy who made the app is going to like speak in front of Congress and like talk about it with them and stuff.
Probably to assure us that nothing gets leaked to the Chinese government, but I just don't believe him.
Yeah, and I guess that's fair, but I do think it's a tricky situation, and I think it would kind of. I think there's good things to TikTok. I think it's entertaining. I think a lot of good can be done with it. I also think there's a lot of negatives to TikTok in terms, not only in terms of the potential security issue, but also like, is it lowering our attention spans? Probably. Is it bad for people's mental health? Probably. Stuff like that.
I would say almost, but I feel like I can say definitely. It's definitely worse in those regards than a lot of other social media. Something like TikTok, 5 years ago, you would never have seen a Family Guy clip with a Subway Surfers underneath it, because you have such a fried attention span that you can't even watch a Family Guy clip without needing some brain dead little thing on the bottom. But that's everywhere on TikTok. I don't even use the app, really. I only have it so my friends can send me memes. But I don't even look at those, to be honest. I've got like 100 in my inbox from friends that I just haven't looked at. Sorry, guys, but I don't.
He only watches mine.
I don't like the app very much. I don't use it. And if there's good enough stuff on there for me to see, people will send it to me, and then maybe I'll see it. But anyway, I don't even use the app much, and I'm still aware of how many of these like attention span videos there are. It's wild.
Yeah. So there are pros and cons to it. I do use it a lot. This is the thing, is like there's a lot of good content on it. Like I get recipes off of TikTok sometimes. Sometimes I find like a clothing brand that I would have never found otherwise that has like really cute clothes. So again, there's like pros and cons.
Isn't there a serious like trafficking issue with TikTok as well? A lot of like children go missing because of TikTok.
I have not heard of that.
Look it up. Look that up. Look up. I'm trying to use nice words because this is going on YouTube. But
yeah,
the Texas Attorney General has issued 2 civil investigation demands on TikTok, focusing on TikTok being potentially complicit in human trafficking and child privacy violations, as well as potentially other unlawful conduct.
I will say there's a lot of gross people on TikTok. Like there definitely are people who are into children.
Words that we won't say on YouTube.
Which I want to call them the mean word. I just don't want to get yoked by YouTube, okay? So don't think of it as me like giving them a pass or something.
No, we hate those people.
Because people, that's the other thing, is like sometimes you'll just say it a different way because you don't want to like say a certain word, and then people will think that you're like encouraging that behavior or something. Yeah. It's like, can you use some common sense or like some critical thinking skills? Like obviously I don't support that, but I also don't want to say that word right now. I'd
like our video to not get on YouTube's bad list.
Yeah.
So
and like maybe one day if we have enough subscribers, it could get monetized, and I don't want that to not happen. So
yeah, people who are inappropriate with children exist on TikTok.
Yes, and though like. And obviously there's kids on the app, which
a lot of kids on the app.
Not good. I would say, I mean, everyone would say don't let your kids on the internet, especially not young kids. I mean, there's obviously the law that says you have to be over 13, but I would say even 13 is really young for that, and especially like an app like TikTok where it's videos of you. But anyways, that's on like every platform though. It's like there was this documentary, or there's this group that looks for child predators, and they took a girl who's like 30 something, and they used like editing technology to make her look like 11, and they made an Instagram account for her, and they even made like accounts for her friends so it would make the account look more realistic. And within like minutes of them uploading the thing, she was getting messages from older guys. So realistically, I don't really see that as being so much of an argument against it, because then you would literally have to take off every website on the internet.
I think the biggest difference there, though, is that while these predators exist on every platform, there are more children on TikTok. It's like there might be fishermen in every pond, but there's more fish in TikTok.
Yeah. I just get concerned about that stuff because it's kind of like the same thing that YouTube is doing, where now you can't even say swears because, ooh, there's kids that watch
They
YouTube.
rolled back on that, actually. They undid that change.
Because that was stupid.
YouTube dub.
And just because kids are going to be on the internet, because this is the thing, it's like kids should maybe not be on the internet, but it's also one of those things where people are always going to do what you tell them not to. It's like how underage people are not supposed to drink or smoke, but they still do it. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have rules against it, but it also, like, I don't think you should punish people for, I don't know, being PG-13 on a website that, because it has kids that watch it.
Yeah, and in fairness, you can have as many warnings and, don't use this app if you're under 18 on your service as possible. People are just going to check, I'm 18.
Yeah. And if you make, I was doing it. When I was 11, I think I was 11 or 12, I made my Facebook account.
Yeah, which you had to be 18, I believe, to
no,
use,
you
or 16 maybe.
I think, maybe at the time it was that you had to be 18, because originally it was made for, college students. Then adults started getting into it, old people, and that's why so many boomers are on it now. But at the very least, usually websites say you have to be 13 to make an account, because that's, there must be some law that's what the age is.
No, you're a teen and not a child.
But I was not, so I had to up my age a few years. I think it was still 13 at the time, because I have had this issue where a lot of my old accounts still think my birthday, I was born in 1997.
I remember having to lie about my age on websites, and then every once in a while now I'll make an account on something and I'd be like, I'm gonna be 25 in May. I don't need to lie anymore. I do have one last thing, a very brief thing. I've been playing COD Zombies again. My whole life I've loved COD Zombies. There's another word for what it is called. World War II German Zombies. That's what the original name of the mode was called, because it was made in a game during World War II, or that took place during World War II. And man, those games are so good. Some of them are, people, including myself, will complain about some of the newer ones, or some of the older specific maps on it. That this one sucks. These ones aren't that good. This one is mid. But they're only mid in the context of each other. World at War, Black Ops 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all the Zombies is all so good. Even Black Ops 4, the one that is probably of that grouping, considered the worst. Some of those maps on Black Ops 4 are awesome. 9 takes place in a Roman Colosseum. I could play that map for hours. I have played that map for hours. I've played them all for hours. And I have a friend who I've been playing with recently, because Black Ops 3 is free right now if you have PlayStation Plus on your PS4 or 5. He played Black Ops 2, but none of the other games. And Black Ops 3 has the maps from 1 and from World at War 1 and obviously 3 on it. The only maps it doesn't have are Black Ops 2, and then Black Ops 4 hadn't come out yet. So, but it's got the highest concentration of zombies maps in a single game, and they're awesome. They're the best grouping of maps. So he just dropped $50 on all the DLCs, and we've just been going through the maps one by one, and it's taken me back a lot, and it's so good. I love those games. That's all. I just wanted to gush a little bit about how good Zombies is. And the story, I looked up because I know all the story by heart, more or less. And it's very complicated. It's way more complex than you might expect from a little Zombies minigame in a Call of Duty. But the timeline for Zombies, I looked up a video to remind myself so I could tell my friend about it as we make our way through the maps. There's an 8-hour lore video that you have to watch if you want to learn all about it, which is awesome. That's way more than you need, but oh boy, it's so good. So good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yes. And you know what? I love all the lore that you can tell me about COD zombies.
Not even just zombies, but everything.
Yeah. So he gets into a lot of stuff that has lots of lore, and I'm a nosy person. I'm a very curious person. I just like to know things. So if there's some story that has a lot of information, I'll be like, yes, tell me.
Yeah, for her, it's like learning gossip, but about people who aren't real.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, did you know that Queen America the Eternal got divorced? Like, and
like,
she's like,
ooh. Like, I don't know if there's just something wrong in my brain that like every new information is just perceived as like gossip or something. But that's why I'm a Ravenclaw. I just love information. Like, I want to be Gretchen Wieners, where they're like, oh, her hair's so big it's full of secrets. If you have drama or tea or anything, tell it to me.
It's like a beehive, and all the drones that come in have secrets.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And I don't even have that many friends, so it's not like I tell it to people, you know?
She just holds on to it.
I just hold on to it. It just makes me naturally happy to know. I'm like, yes, I know what's going on. We don't have time to unpack all of that. I wonder if it's like being an only child and maybe like feeling left out aside. I don't know. There's something there, but
yeah, and I could talk about Freud too. Not even about that, but about some other things that I talked about with my like sister and cousins last weekend, a weekend before.
Oh really?
Yeah, it was like Oedipus complex and stuff.
Yeah.
And how everybody dunks on Freud for saying like, oh, well, you have an Oedipus complex and you have weird thoughts about your mom. And it's like, he said that, and he's wrong if you take it at face value, that no, people do not want to have, most people, 99% of people do not want to have intimate relations with their mother. That being said, if you are and it's the same with women and their dads. Or like he said that, oh, well, girls actually want to be intimate with their father, and it's weird and it's gross. But if you take a step back and look at it and you realize that if you are a girl growing up, your idea of like what a man or a good man, like a good husband and a good father, it's your dad, right? Like he is in your mind the ideal man because he's been the man in your life. So if you are a girl, you would want a boyfriend or a husband that reminds you of your dad in those ways. Like if your dad was brave and strong and always supported the house and took care of your mom and took care of you and your siblings, you want a husband that does those things too. It's not that you want to be intimate with your father. It's that you want to be intimate with somebody that has the good qualities that your father has.
Yes. And it's actually like a psychology thing that I don't know if this goes the same way for guys, but definitely for girls, they tend to date men who look and have similar qualities to their father. So like, that's kind of weird. But it just happens. It's like how you tend to date someone who looks like you. Like, on surface level, we do look alike. We both have brown hair, blue eyes, like...
Yeah. Right. It's all just what you're familiar with, what makes you comfortable. Which does not mean that you want to be weird with your family members. It just means that you want the things that are familiar and comfortable to you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it also works in that a lot of times, if you grew up in an abusive household, you tend to date partners who treat you that similar way because it's what you grew up around.
Right. Like dudes with like mommy issues, they want women who are bad for them. Toxic women who have no compassion, right? Because their mom like beat them when they were little or was an alcoholic or something like that. They like, well, my mom was weird and that's what I'm used to, so I like weird girls now.
Yeah. Or like, oh, my dad wasn't around, or he treated us awful, so now I date guys who are abusive to me.
Yeah, because that reminds me of my father subconsciously.
Yeah. So, it works in positive and not so positive ways.
Yes, and even though Freud gets dunked on saying weird things, in a way he was right.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there were things he was a little out of pocket for, but there's also things that he was kind of right about.
Yeah.
I had two other things I kind of wanted to touch on. First of all, I wanted to talk to you guys today about the effects of plastics and microplastics and how that is affecting our like fertility rates and things like that. Because Thursday at my school, during lunch, there was going to be a lecture, and there was a lecture by one of our doctor's wives. She has a podcast. So I guess if you're interested in hearing about this stuff, because I cannot tell you very much about it, as you will find out. It's like What Mama Wants or something like that. It is on Spotify. I think she has a lot of different people come to talk about different topics.
We gotta get on Spotify.
It's usually, I know, I would like to see how you do that, but I think it's like a whole thing where you have to have your podcast on a different platform and then send it from there. So it would be a whole thing. Anyways, I can look into it. But, she has different people. It's usually like environmental stuff. I wanted to see that so bad because, one, I think it's a very interesting topic. It's something we talk about a lot. And I thought it would be good to talk about on here, at least briefly. But there was a lot of mix-ups in where it was supposed to be. So it was supposed to be on the 3rd floor, the same floor I had my morning class in, of one of our buildings on campus. Then it turned out that the Addiction Medicine Club had a meeting in that room. And so then they were like, oh, just kidding. The plastics talk is going to be on the 2nd floor of this building in a there's lecture halls or lecture rooms in that building that is in the same spot but on different floors. So it was going to be in the same type of room in the same spot but just the floor down. I was like, okay. And then before I even went over there, because I got out of class early, so I was just like kind of watching all these texts flood in of like, oh, just kidding, it's going to be in this room, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one was, it's going to be on that same room but on the 1st floor. So I go downstairs and I go to that room that it's supposed to be in. And I did not check the number of the room. I didn't know, and I get confused by which room is
Rookie
which.
Mistake.
I know. And so while I'm sitting there, there's like not as many people as I thought, and I don't know what the woman who's presenting is supposed to look like. I probably should have known that she looked like the lady who was sitting there was older, and also there wasn't like a PowerPoint presentation on, but I didn't know what to expect. I was like, you know what, whatever. I sit down, they had cookies, which was weird because they were supposed to have pizzas, but I thought maybe they're like, someone's running to get them and they're running late. I don't know. I get called out by one of our professors. She's like, hey, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, good. And I sit down, and then one of the messages comes in, oh, just kidding, it's in a different room on the 1st floor, or like they say it's in this room on the 1st floor. But in my head, I'm like, maybe it's the same room, but the number is different, like maybe they said it's room 102, but then they didn't realize that 102 is a different room, and it is still the room I'm in, but the number is just different. That's kind of what I thought happened in my brain. Like, I thought for sure I'm in the right room, because I didn't know there were 3 different things going on that day. I thought there was 2. I thought it was the Addiction Medicine Club meeting, and then this plastics talk. Well, it turns out there was a 3rd lecture on like being misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's from this lady who told the story of how she thought she had Alzheimer's for 8 years because a doctor misdiagnosed her with it, and it was this whole thing. Sheesh. So I'm sitting down and she starts talking, and I realized this is not a plastics talk. Oh God. But by the time I had realized that, she had already started talking. I was in a spot very not easily able to get to any door to exit. I had been called out. She started talking, like, it would have been so rude for me to leave.
There's an episode of Phineas and Ferb where Perry the Platypus who always gets caught in Dr. Doofenshmirtz's traps. Yeah. Like, usually it's a bear trap or like a rope or a cage or something. But this time he's trapped in a booth in a high-end restaurant. And he, like, tries to reach over the table to, like, attack him. He's like, hey, stop, you're trapped. Not by a rope or anything, but by societal convention. Yeah. He would make a scene right now if you got up and attacked me, and that would be wrong. So sit back down, you're trapped. That was her.
That was literally me. That's such a good example. I was like, oh no. And it was a lovely talk. It was very informative. It was very valuable for me, who is going to go into medicine, on how I should treat patients, and especially if I'm giving like a terminal diagnosis, and to always be sure that you kind of exhaust every possible avenue before you give a terminal diagnosis to someone, because that has a big impact on like their mental health and their family and all this stuff. So it was a valuable talk. I'm not totally upset that I went, but I am upset because I really wanted to hear the plastics talk. So I'm so sorry I don't have anything really to tell you other than to maybe check out that podcast. I'm going to try and find, because apparently she has like an episode of the podcast about microplastics and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to try and listen to that, and maybe next week I can tell you. But the short bit I know is that the fertility rates, my friend who's part of that club that hosted that talk, So she was there for it. And she said that basically the fertility rates are really getting affected, and it's actually mostly men, that the sperm counts and like the sperm viability is going way down because of plastics.
Yeah.
And the like population growth is gonna like cap at 2050, and it's gonna start going down like irreversibly.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I don't know if I've mentioned it in the podcast, but microplastics are a massive issue right now. There's microplastics in your water. There's microplastics in the meat you're getting at the supermarket. There's plastic in the Apple Jacks you eat in the morning. These things, they get into every part of your body. They get into your blood. For women, they get into the womb. There are babies being born with microplastics in their bodies, even though they haven't consumed anything, because their mother had it in her bloodstream and in her ovaries. And these plastics, I don't have a source for you, but you could look it up. I had to show this to a coworker the other day. These plastics, they release like estrogens and phytoestrogens and stuff in your body, which reduces male sperm count and testosterone levels, and it makes girls go through puberty at younger ages. So that when you're like, people make jokes, and it's like based in truth, that when you like hit 30 or whatever, you're like past your prime for like a fertility age for a woman. And it varies from woman to woman, but like that is going to start being like earlier too, because if you're going through puberty at 12 instead of 15 or something, like that's years off, that you're like your internal clock is all messed up. So it's not just going to be like men who have a harder time like making women pregnant. Women who are older are going to have a harder time getting pregnant too, because they went through puberty younger.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not totally sure, but I do think it probably also, because of like the estrogen stuff, is probably partially, well, I think PCOS is more related to androgens, but I do feel like there's a lot more women with those like hormonal issues like PCOS, and I do think the plastics also might have to do with that.
It's because your estrogen level is, it's like the most important hormone in a woman's body, right? Like the same way that testosterone is like the most important in a man's.
Yeah.
Like if those levels get messed up, it's not just them. It's not just, oh, my T levels are down, but everything else is fine. The other ones will get messed up too. So it only makes sense that the other ones, for like you guys, if your estrogen level gets messed up, the other ones can get messed up, which is why if you're like on birth control, it can have certain effects on your body as well, because it messes with your hormones in maybe a positive way. If you have some like, you know, heavy flow or something like that, there are reasons to take birth control, but they come with side effects because you are actively messing with your levels.
Yeah. So I thought I just want to let you guys know that I was planning to talk about it, and we talked about it a little bit, but maybe next week we might have more to say if I can find that episode and I can listen to it. The other thing I just wanted to quickly say is that we live in Maine, we say this. Maine has the oldest population in the country, even slightly higher than Florida, which, you know, like Florida has all the old people that retire and flock to Florida.
Yeah, they flee from the cold parts of the country so that they spend their winter months in Florida. My parents have friends who are retired, and they spend like 6 months and 1 day in Florida to dodge the winter, and because they're from Connecticut. And that means they're legally Florida residents, and they're like retirement age, right? So they're in their 60, 65 plus range, and that's extremely common around the country, and especially in New England, to flee like that.
Yeah. But despite that, Maine has a very old population. Maine's always doing stuff to try and get people to stay, young people to stay, people to move in, because of this, because obviously if you're old, you're going to die, and then you won't have anyone.
You're bad for the GDP.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I guess, like, economically, like, once you're retirement age, if you're not working anymore, then you're not really contributing to the economy as much, and it's a whole thing. But because of this, I cannot tell you how many apartment complexes in Maine, and, like, even in our area, are senior, like,
oh my God,
affordable living, elderly things. Like, when we were trying to find a place here, first of all, it's super expensive in this area that we're in, because it's a city area and there's like more stuff around here. So much of the apartment complexes, and when you look into different apartment like groups that have multiple apartments and you're trying to apply to places, so many of them are the affordable housing that's like for people who are like poverty level, which is really annoying because the poverty level is pretty low and you can be not even making that much, but still not qualify for any of this affordable housing stuff. Like, I have my student loans that I live off of, so I really don't have a ton of money for housing and stuff. You make just slightly too much to qualify for the like affordable housing stuff. Like literally like a few thousand more a year than you can qualify. So it's really annoying. First of all, that. But the other thing is, a lot of the housing is also 65 plus only, or like 60 plus only. It's for old people. And I get that we have an old population. 21.8% of the state's population apparently is 65 or older, at least in 2020. So, yes, there is a lot of old people in our state. But do all the apartments need to be, or at least like all the affordable ones, need to be for someone who is either like dirt poor or old? Right. Can we please get more affordable housing that is like not affordable in terms of like the state whatever stuff that they have to have that mandated, but just not ridiculously expensive, and someone who's middle class can live there and live comfortably and not like have so much of their monthly income go to renting like their rent and like, you know?
Right, especially from a state that talks about how it wants to maintain and grow their young people population. People like us who are out of college, we're in our early mid 20s, and I'm not making six figures, right? And I'm not saying you have to make six figures to be able to buy a house or to be able to rent a decent apartment. But what I am saying is that a lot of these people who are fresh out of college, just moved out of mom and dad's house, they're not going to be able to afford a lot of the places that are around right now. If you want to stimulate the growth of the youth population, you need to be able to attract those people with the places to live, not poverty housing, right? Like,
and old people housing.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, but it's so frustrating. And I just bring this up because today I literally saw another article that was like, oh, a town or city not that far from us has a new elderly like housing apartment complex that's opening up. Like, did they need that? I don't think they did. I think if you genuinely want to stimulate new people and younger people coming into the state, you need to, first of all, open up, like, have more stores and things to do, things that young people want to do, open up more of that stuff. And two, like, have affordable housing for young people that is not just the poverty housing.
Yeah, not like legally affordable. But like
affordable that we can afford it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we're not desperately struggling to survive, but we still would like to have housing that is not astronomically expensive, especially in a state where a lot of the jobs do not pay as much in other states because usually the cost of living is lower here. So, like, proportionally, you know what I mean? Like, right. You could technically make more in Connecticut because they have a higher cost of living, so they have to pay people more, so the wages are technically higher there. So the wages are not super high in Maine, but they're starting to get apartment complexes because apartment agencies are buying out apartments in Maine. So like ours is literally a company in California. A lot of out-of-state places are buying it up, jacking up rent, and it's like, well, our wages haven't increased in that proportion, and it's not even necessarily that the wages should, but just don't let these out-of-state companies jack up the rent prices.
Yeah, and also it chases away, like, if California is buying up property in Maine, that makes it harder for the people in Maine to buy property. Now, obviously we're renting right now, but it would be better for the state of Maine and for us and other people like us if younger people could actually purchase and own land in Maine that wasn't already owned by some agency in California.
Yeah. And there's a whole like rent or housing crisis in, the whole country, but also in Maine, and there's a lot of debate about this stuff. People saying, hey, can we make laws that, well, one, for like not letting landlords up the rent like super high, because in some cases, out-of-state apartment agencies were buying rental complexes and things like that, or like just houses, and then renting them out. Or if they were already like places that were being rented out, they would jack the rent up in some cases like $1,000.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Like, that is insane. So some of the people are like, hey, make that not allowed, like that they can't raise the rent that much. But I really feel like those out-of-state agencies just shouldn't be able to buy property in this state. Like, I feel like you should have to live here to do that, because this is why people are getting bought out. Like, that's part of the big issue of the housing crisis in our country right now, is because rich corporations, not even corporations, just like rich people, because something that really annoys me, and you'll see all these like, they're like vultures, okay? They say, oh, get your passive income. Those like financial gurus and people who are like, oh, it's easy to become rich. They'll always tell you to buy property and have a passive income from property. Well, that's why we have a housing crisis, is because people are buying up houses and apartment complexes in other states that they don't even have anything to do with. They don't live there. And then they jack up the rent and they're like, oh, well, I don't have to do anything. But, yeah, so.
I could talk about this forever, but this would be a very long podcast.
It would be long. And I know you have somewhere to be, even though I'd usually like to finish with an activity. I guess we will just stop there for now.
It'd be that way. I've been dodging this guy, not even intentionally. I've been accidentally dodging this guy since Monday. And I can't put it off anymore. I gotta go.
So, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Send us your breakfast.
Send us your breakfast. Please do. It's very important to us that we see your breakfast.
Because we need to know that you up.
If we don't know you up, I mean, what
do
gives,
we know?
right? Like, why live?
Comment or send us messages of what we should do next, or feedback, or
Any
anything.
ideas, yeah.
For activities. Again, if you want advice, we will give it to you. Anything you want us to talk about, if there's some news that you are aware of that we aren't, send it our way. And we'll hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, it's like breakfast with the newspaper. Send us your breakfast. Send us some news. We're ready.
We're ready to talk about it. So, yeah. Bye.
Bye.